Okay, tongue don't fail me now. Well, it never does. Doc here, and it's time for another episode of Millie's Itinerary. We're actually getting kind of close to the end of this story, a typical day in the life of our Basset Hound Millie. Interesting dog. Oh yeah. Well, they all are. Yeah, they all are. Dogs are great. And I'm working on another story. I can't even begin to explain it. Yeah, at the moment, so it's going to be good. I don't know when. That one might take me a good another 3 or 4 months to finish. But meanwhile, we'll do day-to-day blurbs on my YouTube page. Remember, please share these with your friends. Okay, please share these with your friends. I'm working on retooling my GoFundMe page also. Working on it. I don't know. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm working on finding someone who can work on it for me. Yeah. I have trouble even putting in a new message to the to the GoFundMe site. I might just try that first, and if it fails miserably, then then maybe I can get someone to help me. But okay. Any case, it's Doc South on I believe it is Doc South on GoFundMe if you care to donate to the cause. The money would be used for expenses in doing all this, and also perhaps if I got enough, it would help towards getting Millie's Itinerary published as a book. Because I tend to self-publish. Right, I tend to do that. It seems to work the best. So, I'm just saying. Meanwhile, I'm happy to share them with you here on the on YouTube, of course, and Facebook. All right, well, here we go. Millie's Itinerary, 8:30 in the evening. Okay. Well, I love chocolate ice cream, but I haven't had any in years. Why? Because chocolate is bad for dogs. Now and then, if I can get them on sale real cheap, I'll purchase a 6-pack of Eskimo pies from the frozen food department at work. Sometimes they go on sale, you know. I have to sneak them into the house when Millie's out in the yard with Sandy. I shove them as fast as I can into the freezer compartment behind a container of frozen soup to mask their scent. If Millie were to catch on that the pies were in the house, she simply wouldn't rest until she had one nestled in her paws as it melted all over the rug. Even the slightest hint of those icy morsels being in the house would start a sniffing frenzy that would, rival the fabled search for the Holy Grail. Again, to a dog, something like an Eskimo pie would be the Holy Grail. Right. And but once about a year ago, I noticed Millie was out cold and snoring to beat the band on the far side of our living room. One of my vegetable soup containers was simmering on the was simmering on the kitchen stove. My thought was to mix the soup with seashell pasta. So it was kind of, I had some of that, and it was kind of heavy on the garlic and oregano. Sandy was actually, the scent filled the room, garlic and oregano. Sandy was kind of holding her nose and spraying the house with air freshener every 10 minutes, and the smell of garlic and lavender hung in our home like a real wet blanket. Gosh, a person could gag to death in our house that night. I figured that it might be a good idea to retreat into the confines of my bedroom and shut the door and knock out a webcast. The door is about as good a soundproofing door as any DJ could want. It also restricted odors like a charm. So I went into the studio and secured all the hatches. The sound of Millie's snoring, raging aerosol spray cans, and Sandy's gagging out in the living room soon faded off into a mere whisper of despair. After I covered my pile of dirty socks with a pillow, all I had to do was open the outside window and invite the flower fresh air from the woodlands to be my welcome guest. As I unlatched the window, I could see bluebirds flitting from limb to limb out in the side yard along the river. Funny, but I didn't recall that we had bluebirds around these parts in the fall. As the window rose into position, I soon found out to my horror that the bluebirds were really goldfinches who were turning blue from the odor coming out of the sewage treatment plant that was about 2 miles upstream. The goldfinches were flying for their lives. They had gotten to our backyard and just couldn't go any further until they rested a bit. They were flapping fresh air at each other's faces while holding on to tiny branches with the other. The odor would pass, but for now it was very, very ripe outside. I could see the little garter snakes out in the lawn were lying straight out like leathery, scaly pencils. I could go on forever. In short, it was like every home on the street, including ours, joined in on a volume discount, and each was getting its septic tank cleaned all at the same time. With all that nose candy in the air and Millie being in her usual afternoon comatose state, I figured the moment was right to sneak a nice Eskimo pie behind closed doors in the studio. Okay, so I opened the studio door and looked around. Sandy was still spraying and gagging. Millie was down to about one long snoring breath per minute. Her feet were moving. Now, in most dogs, that kind of movement signals they're dreaming of running after a cat. I figured that in Millie's case, she's running to her food bowl or rushing to get her beloved nap in time. Whatever she was dreaming about didn't matter to me as long as she stayed unconscious long enough for me to extract an Eskimo pie from the freezer compartment and get back behind my studio door unnoticed. I had to be sure Sandy didn't see me either. Though Sandy would not normally eat a whole Eskimo pie, she has been known to want a bite. The last thing I needed now was for her to come blasting through my studio door, hollering at the top of her lungs to let her have a bite. Worse than that, for a tiny person, she sure can take a big, huge bite. Even more worse, as she's leaving the room with her cheeks all puffy and chocolate dripping off her teeth, old you-know-who will be wide awake and barking in circles around my feet. You guessed it, the dead would suddenly come to life. If Millie suddenly did awaken, well, she'd soon be barking and scratching at my knees. Then I'd have to slice all the chocolate coating from a wad of what used to be my Eskimo pie and shovel its innards into our hungry hound. Pretty much I'd get the skin as Millie got the meat. Thus it would go until all I had left was a little bit of melted ice cream on my fingers. Millie would get to lick that too. Rather than causing all that grief and turmoil, I now find it best to eat my Eskimo pie in the car as I drive to work. Can you get a ticket for that? Yeah, probably, huh? Well, in any case, there you go, friends. Millie's Itinerary. That was 8:30 p.m. Okay, we got more. Oh, yeah, got more. See you later. Bye now. Thank you. God bless.